Domo domo, what is up everybody? This is official Jujutsu Kaisen translator Steady here. Thank you very much for coming back for another Manga Lounge Jujutsu Kaisen edition. For those of you that want to up your Jujutsu Kaisen game a little bit, you know, you read the chapters, you did a little bit of searching on Twitter to see what people have to say about the chapter and this and that, but you've come here to elevate the game, to make sure that you can call yourself a special grade Jujutsu sorcerer when it comes to the knowledge of Jujutsu Kaisen. I definitely want to start out by saying that perhaps you noticed my last edition was chapters 101 and 102. Today I am going to be covering chapters 103 and 104. Now this isn't like a new change in the process. I'm not going to be doing, you know, like one episode every couple weeks. It's just this past month it just happened to turn out that way because of timing issues and things like that, so I appreciate you understand. And I definitely want to take this opportunity to remind you to hit the like button if you do like these, to hit the like button, subscribe, to comment and all that. It really does help me out. So of course feel free to let me know if you have any questions, comments, kind of things like that you want to get cleared up. Let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to. I definitely want to kind of go over quickly what I'm going to be talking about today from chapters 103, 104, 103. We definitely am going to cover the this kind of interesting cover page a little bit. The big thing that's going on right now is the Choso versus Itadori fight, and then we're going to moving on to chapter 104. And we're going to kind of taking a little bit of a deeper dive into Akutami Sensei's use of geography, real world geography. Obviously it's set in Tokyo, we're in Shibuya, and Akutami Sensei has been using the geography of Shibuya, the surrounding area, as well as Shibuya Station. This complete masterclass is not only just using it as a location, but using it as a strategic location as well. And I'm gonna clear up a couple of things about Choso's blood manipulation power, obviously the relationship it has to Kamo Noritoshi, as well as a couple of new things that we've seen as well, and clear up a couple of things that might be a little bit confusing. And then of course gonna be touching on kind of the final couple pages of chapter 104 as well, and what that could mean for the chapters coming up, and maybe give us a little bit of an idea of what to expect. But yeah, anyways, another Manga Lounge Jujutsu Kaisen edition incoming, so hope you got your drinks ready, take a seat, get out your Shonen Jump app, and let's get right into it. Alright, so let's get right into chapter 103. We're going to be starting out with the cover page right here. For those of you that do follow my Twitter, maybe you'll have seen my post. But this is actually based on a song that came out in 1999 in Japan called Dango-san Kyodai. I'm talking about three rice, kind of mochi ball brothers, skewered mochi ball brothers. Dango mochi ball, and it's kind of skewered in three, and the three mochi balls are brothers, and it's kind of this kind of funny like little tale about them kind of getting in fights, or just kind of, you know, those kind of, it's not really supposed to have like a super deep meaning or anything, but it's a very catchy song, and it pretty much took Japan by storm in 1999. It was this kind of like social phenomenon basically, and you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it on like TV or hearing it on radio or this and that. And one of the very iconic things about this song is the CD cover. It's basically this cover page right here with this iconic yellow background, and it has the three brothers. And even the text is almost kind of iconic, and I think Snare did a good job with the typography here. So, and I can't believe that I didn't think of it sooner with the three Death Moon painting brothers here. But a really funny idea, and kind of shows off Akutami Sensei's sense of humor. But yeah, let's keep on diving into the chapter. Of course, Itadori now heading into the station, meets Choso. and then immediately Choso recognizes him, even though they haven't met before. So whether that has some sort of deeper meaning or not is kind of hard to say. Maybe Choso's just seen a photograph or something like that, you know, or maybe there's just some sort of kind of, he can sense that this is the guy that killed his brothers, right? Perhaps through some sort of like connection with his own brothers and the brothers seeing Yuji fighting Yuji, obviously. Maybe he can kind of sense it that way. I don't know if it's supposed to have some sort of greater meaning to it, but they don't really touch upon it. Who knows? But this kind of long hallway right here on page, what is this? Page 3. It's real. These are all real locations in Shibuya Station. You can even do kind of a Google Maps. That's what I did, and just kind of keep on going deeper and deeper, and basically kind of follow follow where Itadori's going. It's pretty cool. I'll have a couple of panels going on right here to show you the comparisons, but it's very cool. As of right now, though, they're just kind of fighting in this long hallway here, and Itadori obviously recognizes that he's at a severe disadvantage here. Itadori obviously doesn't have this kind of long-range attacks, projectiles. He's very much a close-up kind of close quarters combat, the CQC for you Metal Gear fans out there. So he needs to be up close, but Choso obviously kind of is keeping his distance by using piercing blood and convergence. So convergence is the kind of the condensing of the blood first, and then from there, as we see later on in the chapter, he can either go from convergence to supernova, or he can go from convergence to piercing blood. So it's very kind of a overall balanced technique. So he can use it long range, mid range, close range, as they touch on in chapter 104 as well. But Itadori recognizes that he's kind of on the defensive here, so he's saying, okay, well, I need to do something about this piercing blood. He calls it this blood beam, right? So he says, at least I have to be able to kind of dictate the timing here. So he does this really cool thing where he jumps, right? Basically kind of inviting a blood beam. Like, he knows that if he jumps, then at least if Choso bites, that he'll know when the beam is coming at least. So he kind of floats a little bit, and Choso recognizes this as well. He's like, he's obviously just kind of baiting me here, but hey, I'll play along. He's confident enough that Itadori doesn't really have anything up his sleeve, right? So we see this piercing blood shoot off, but then as soon as that happens, Itadori actually closes the distance. But Itadori is definitely kind of a little bit in over his head. Even if he gets in close, there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of this blood manipulation. Remember, Yuji, this is his first time encountering this blood manipulation. In the Goodwill event, we had Fushiguro fight against Kamo, but also Toge knows it as well, because when they got together and were running away from Hanami, right? So it's not like this blood manipulation is something that like everyone knows, especially on the Tokyo side. We're not even too sure how much Kyoto school is familiar with it. Yeah, so Choso uses a supernova here, as it's kind of explained here on, what is this, page 10. So he condenses the blood first, and then he releases it almost kind of a buckshot, basically like a shotgun shot, where it just kind of spreads out, is how they describe it. But they don't really touch on it here, but it looks like Choso actually, he forms this kind of like blood blade thing going on here. So he looks like he hardens some blood to form this like knife, which is very cool, and obviously is very advantageous for close range fights as well, right? It'd be curious to see how big he can make this, whether like this is kind of the limit, or whether he can make like a blood sword or a blood spear, theoretically, who knows. that maybe they'll explore that later on. That'd be pretty cool. See, I mean, this is the incredible thing about Akutami Sensei as well, right? Just when you thought, like, how far can this blood manipulation really go, right? But then there are all these different kind of like expanded techniques and stuff within blood manipulation. Like even Norito Shikamo, we saw him use this, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like a disc, like this ring, like a bladed ring against Hanami as well. Although it didn't really do too much damage against Hanami, but that's a cool idea as well, right? That he can kind of throw this like blade frisbee thing. But Yuji, he's a tough guy. Even he gets stabbed in the foot, he's doing his little, he's almost kind of doing this little Eddie Gordo for my Tekken fans out there, capoeira style. He just has this knack for this kind of, not only, of course he's physically gifted, but he has this kind of sense, this fighting sense, right? Which I'm sure some of it is going to be explained later on as kind of like he inherited it from his parents and this and that, right? Kind of classic Shonen Jump. But otherwise he's superhuman, I mean, for all intents and purposes. So there's got to be something more to that. Whether it's a heavenly restriction, something tells me that it's a little bit something more than heavenly restriction, but maybe kind of a derivative of, or kind of an expansion of even. But again, it's not just some sort of like knock him out. It's this constant chess game here. So now as soon as Itadori thinks he's got Choso kind of on the back foot, now he goes in. And then we see Choso, it's so brilliant by Akutami Sensei, we see Choso just put his hands together like that, and it's a fake out. Oh man, it gets Itadori. As soon as he sees it, he's like, oh shoot. And then as soon as he's off balance, Choso comes in and he uses a flowing red scale. Now flowing red scale is something, it's the same thing that Norito Shikamo used. We use different terminology then, but we're trying to streamline this stuff, so thank you very much for your patience. But then this time, Choso comes in with the convergence again, and it's not a fake out this time. Although, Choso immediately after explains that he says, I didn't condense enough. Like he kind of jumped the gun a little bit, and he didn't condense the blood enough. The convergence wasn't as strong. But even so, Itadori's like, man, this is a losing battle. I need to think of something quick. And then as soon as that happens, we have Mekamaru Muta basically coming in saying, hey, what's going on? So this kind of definitely confirms my theory from a few weeks ago that when Yuji commented that he hasn't heard from Mekamaru, my inclination definitely was the fact that he was just kind of conserving energy, which in the next chapter we find out pretty quickly that is exactly the case. That, you know, even when Mekamaru showed up in disc form, he was quick to explain, like, I don't have much time, I can't just be babbling, we need to get this done quick. So he's definitely kind of conserving what little cursed energy he has left to convey this kind of information. But yeah, let's just go right into chapter 104. So chapter 104, Shibuya Incident Part 22. So we're still in the Shibuya Incident arc here. Akutami Sensei hasn't changed it partway through or anything like that. So yeah, we see Yuji here saying, where the hell were you this whole time? But Mekamaru is saying, like, exactly like what we were just talking about, saying that yeah, he needed to conserve some energy, and he specifically says that there's still something that I need to do, which is beyond, I think, just helping Yuji here. It's kind of hard to take from the original Japanese as well, but he's definitely seems to be implying that he's got some sort of greater goal that he needs to achieve while he's in this form. So I think there is a certain piece of information, or right, because he's been kind of monitoring a lot of people in a lot of different places for a long time now, and he obviously has certain information that the rest of the Jujutsu High people don't know, so there's probably a piece of information that he needs to convey to someone, and I think that's why he's conserving his energy. But Mekamaru, obviously one of the Kyoto school students, so at least he seems to be familiar with Noritoshi Kamo's ability, blood manipulation, and I like this kind of this banter between Yuji and Mekamaru here. He's like, perfect, so you know what it's all about then, right? So tell me the weakness. But Mekamaru is like, sorry, even though I know what it is, I don't know what a weakness is. And they kind of explain here, interesting panel on page 2, saying that blood manipulation is one of the treasured curse techniques passed down through the Kamo family line. So this can be kind of taken one of two ways, that blood manipulation is kind of it is hereditary to the Kamo family line, but the way that he kind of mentions it, he almost mentions as a possibility that blood manipulation is only one of a couple or a few different curse techniques within the Kamo big three family. I remember it's the Gojo family, the Kamo family, as well as the Zenin family, or the big three families, right? So within the Kamo family, there could be more than just blood manipulation, or within the Kamo family line, this blood manipulation is the one that stands out. Could go either way, we're not really sure. But Mekamaru goes on to explain that whether it's for close, mid, or long range combat, it's definitely prized for its kind of balance, the fact that it's very flexible in its situations, which we've already seen. And he also adds on that Choso doesn't really suffer from blood loss, right, as a human would, which is bad news. And as well, just like Yuji here is like, well, thanks for that. Thanks for nothing, basically. But this is kind of where I also want to expand on my talking about Akutami Sensei's attention to detail when it comes to the geography. When he tells Yuji to run away into the bathroom here, again, I went into Google Maps and looked it up, and it's a thing that really, it's an actual bathroom like corridor that actually exists, just the way that it's described here on page 4. Has the elevator on the right, you have the women's bathroom on the left, men's bathroom straight ahead, and then for handicapped people on the left. So it's absolutely amazing, the fact that Akutami Sensei is actually using this one little corner of Shibuya Station as an actual tactical portion of the story. It's amazing. But Choso obviously is he's very smart as well, right? Although he can get a little bit of hot-tempered, as we see in the following pages when Mekamaru kind of eggs him on by saying that his brothers are cowards. But he's quick to say, like, okay, there's some sort of sound going on. There was also a second voice, and this guy, along with Nobara, killed my two brothers, so he's not an idiot. So he needs to kind of stay on his toes, need to stay alert, right? But Mekamaru successfully kind of eggs him on and gets Choso to come in. Again, this bathroom is, although I couldn't actually go into the bathroom in Google Maps, I could get as far as the entrance, and this is exactly what it looks like. Of course, on my Twitter as well, I have a more kind of expanded thread going on right now. But what Yuji has been doing is he's been kind of breaking the water pipes, and all of a sudden there's just water going on everywhere. And then we see that the Choso's blood starts to kind of react to the water. We're going to be getting into kind of cells at work territory here for all you cells at work fans. Now, I'm no scientist or anything like that, but I'll try to do my best to kind of explain it in terms which I understood it as anyways after my kind of limited research. So blood, first of all, we have to explain that when it comes to blood manipulation, apparently the sorcerer kind of manipulates the blood in a way where they halt the coagulation process. So coagulation being like, when you get a cut or something and when blood starts flowing, comes in contact with air and things like that, it doesn't just continuously just flow unless you have a certain condition or something like that, or a certain amount. It does eventually coagulate, right? But in order to manipulate the blood, in blood manipulation, they kind of halt that process, so it becomes vulnerable to water, theoretically, and Mekamaru saw through that. And he says that obviously when blood comes in contact with water, it does dissolve, but they go on to explain that blood manipulation blood is even further kind of vulnerable to that. And the blood, which is now exposed to the water, also comes under something called osmotic pressure. Osmotic? I'm not sure. Which basically is something where the red blood cells, the membranes begin to tear, and which is no bueno, right? Now, I mean, it's not like I'm explaining anything new or anything like that. It's just kind of, hopefully these few panels did kind of do justice in explaining it. But the result being that when basically blood is composed 45% of blood cells, 55% roughly of blood plasma, and then white blood cells as well as platelets are the remaining. I mean, very, very small. 45, 55, that's 100%, right? So it doesn't necessarily make sense, but white blood cells and platelets are a very small portion of that, like 1% or something like that. These are rough numbers. So basically what this all means is that when the blood manipulation blood comes in contact with water, it basically becomes uncontrollable, because that roughly 45% of what blood is made of begins to break down. So now the blood that's exposed to water no longer be controlled by blood manipulation, as is explained beautifully here on page 13. Choso was unable to control blood outside of his body under these specific circumstances. And then on page 14 here, we get this cool little like a Super Saiyan 2 almost kind of thing going on. He uses flowing red scale again, stack, which is stack, basically just kind of like a amplified is how it's supposed to be taken. Now, how this flowing red scale works, we know from what Kamo kind of mentioned. It basically is kind of like a doping effect, right? Kind of gets you the adrenaline going and kind of sharpens your senses, and it's kind of, when someone gets a higher adrenaline and things like that, and manipulating blood circulation within the body. So it seems like this is an even more powerful version of that. Again, we're not really sure what the specifics are, but we can kind of take it as so. And he explains here that Choso is an inexperienced fighter, which, yeah, I mean, it's not like we don't know what his kind of previous life was all about and stuff, but Akutami Sensei kind of almost implies here that he's not really like a fighter, which is scary to think, because he looks pretty strong and he seems pretty keen on his kind of fighting knowledge and stuff. So I'm not too sure what Akutami's really saying, but that's what it said in the Japanese. So he's saying that he didn't really understand what happened, although he was able to kind of keep his focus, and now that he can't manipulate the blood outside the body, at least what he can do is manipulate the blood inside the body again, which kind of spurs on this flowing red stack. Flowing red scale stack. Sorry. This terminology sometimes it's a tough job. I love Jujutsu Kaisen, but sometimes it's just like, man, can't you just go with something normal sometimes? Akutami Sensei. It's cool though. It's obviously, don't get me wrong. But of course we get these cool panels right here, almost kind of like a face-off duel. You can almost hear the that kind of like Western, like about to duke it out. But I love this, you know, where Yuji's like, hey, you're on my turf now. We are duking it out. We are fighting, man. You got the water going everywhere, and it's just such a cool little atmosphere going on here. But now, I mean, Yuji, even after all this and after everything that Choso has done, he still, for whatever reason, kind of gave a moment of relaxation and thought, man, I can win this. I got this. Which is always, anytime you see I can win in like a manga or an anime, you know that's trouble. That's like a red flag saying like, oh, something's about to go down. And sure enough, just when he thought the win was at hand, Choso, apparently by covering up this blood from the water in his hand, he was able to form this kind of like blood crystal, it sounds like, making sure it was not exposed to water while making sure that it would not dissolve. Blood imbued and compressed to its very limit, so like a super hard blood crystal, it sounds like, would pierce Itadori's liver. Oh, now of course my heart kind of sunk when I was translating this page as well. Now it doesn't mean that he was like killed or anything. He is the protagonist and all, but if we've learned anything from Akutami Sensei, that they're certainly not shy to say, hey, no, this character's dead and this and that. I'm not saying that Itadori's dead here, although it certainly doesn't bid well for kind of next chapter, you know. But obviously we can probably expect kind of like a but wait kind of moment, you know, one of those like, but you know, Itadori would stay on his feet, or it's probably going to be something like that, right? But I think Akutami Sensei obviously has the sensibility that they're not just going to be like, and Yuji was completely fine, right? You can't do that. Some mangas they will, like, no problem, you got pierced through the stomach, you got shot in the head, you're fine. You know, it's Akutami Sensei definitely doesn't do that kind of stuff, and I really appreciate that, for one. Even though it's hard to see Yuji get hit like this, I think we can expect Akutami Sensei to kind of commit saying that Yuji's in trouble. But what happens next is kind of, we're not too sure. But yeah, that is chapters 103 and 104. If there's anything that I missed that you're kind of curious about, or you're a little bit confused about, maybe I can kind of shed a little bit of light on it. Let me know in the comments. Thanks very much for liking and all that if you did enjoy the video. But hopefully next week we will have... what is next week? Yeah, next week is chapter 105. I'll definitely just be doing that as a single chapter, so come back then. Yeah, I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen is just so good. It's just so good. I mean, it's not, I'm not just saying this as the translator, right? But it's got to be the best. I mean, at least like top 3 in Shonen Jump right now, but I think it's the best. Of course, some people will argue that, but for me and my taste and kind of what Akutami Sensei has really done with just kind of the realism, obviously it takes place in this kind of fantastical version of Tokyo, but there are these elements to make it really believable. They commit on when like someone gets defeated, they get defeated. It's not just kind of like and kind of the subtleties in the storytelling and kind of the dialogue. Obviously the fights are just a lot more intricate. It's not just my Kamehameha versus your Kamehameha, blah, you know, which, I mean, look, I grew up with Dragon Ball, I love that kind of stuff too, but it's a lot more tactical, and I really appreciate that. But anyways, yeah, it's a pretty long one this week. Thank you very much for coming by. That is it for me from this week. Fly, Eagles, fly. Although we suck as a team right now. With that, cheers to you. You know how we do. Mata yoroshiku.